Hey beer tubers and brew tubers, this is my edition of the FABQ, or frequently asked beer questions, started by our very own tasting Nitch in Paris. I wasn't specifically tagged by anyone, but I figured, since a lot of people just said, if you haven't been tagged yet, then you should do it. So let's go ahead. I have the questions pulled up on my phone. I just went on my YouTube app and picked up Canadian Sasquatch's video so I can have the list of questions. So we'll go in order, and then I want to add in a 10th question, which I guess you'll let me know in the comments if you've been asked this before, but it is, for me at least, my most commonly asked question nowadays. So first question, how did you get into beer geeking and why beer? So the story, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it concise. So first, after high school, I spent a year and a half living in Israel doing religious study, and because that's what a lot of Orthodox Jews do, at least those who go to modern Orthodox day schools, so I was always into food. My parents are foodies, so they drink more wine than beer. We'll get into that later. But so I was, I would go out to restaurants, and then eventually, and the drinking age there was 18, so I was 18. So me and my friends would go to bars, and eventually I moved past like the European macro lagers like Carlsberg and Tuborg, and I started trying a lot of like Hoegaarden and Left Blondes and Left Brun and a lot of like the more widely available Belgian and German beers, and I really developed a liking for them. But I can't say that's when I dedicated myself to craft beer. What really started the geeking part was in my third or fourth semester of college. My roommate in the dorms at the time and I started to have a tradition that on Thursday nights after class we'd go out, get dinner, and go to the supermarket, and which at that point let you break 6-packs. And we just try any beer they had in the supermarket because we both weren't crazy experienced in beer, but we knew we liked beer. So through that, we both got into beer. He's not like geeking out about it. Now he's not my best friend, but he's enjoyed it. So I, off of that, became a geek and started looking for ratings on Beer Advocate and stuff like that. And over the years, I got more and more geeky, and I ended up being, what I still am now, like the beer expert amongst my friends, just because I'm, the most, I have the most experience in beer amongst some of my closest friends. So that's how it got started, and then eventually, towards the end of college in 2009, my last semester was when I started homebrewing, and that took my geekery and everything to a whole new level. And why beer? I don't know. I like exploring bourbons and scotches too, and wines, but for some reason just the community that I found in beer especially once I started going to beer bars in New York City, just grabbed me in and hasn't let go yet. So especially with the community here on YouTube, it's only adds to my excitement of being part of the homebrewing and craft beer community worldwide. And then question 2, what's your favorite beer? So I don't really, like a lot of people said I don't have a favorite beer. Some people were able to nail it down to one. But for me, my favorite beer style, well, I do love IPAs. Saison has been my favorite beer style for quite a while. As some of you know, I brew a lot of Saisons at least once every few months. I'm always trying new recipes for Saisons. I recently brewed a chai Saison. So I can't nail down a specific favorite beer, but I love the IPAs, the barrel-aged imperial stouts, and all those really more hyped styles. But when it comes down to it, the Saisons are the beers that just I can drink anytime, anywhere, any time of the, any season, no matter what mood I'm in, I can drink a Saison. And that leads into the next question, which is question Number 3 is, if you could have one beer forever, what would it be? So I would probably Saison DuPont, because although it's not my favorite Saison, it's so drinkable, so lemony, so refreshing. I just feel like, and anytime I'm in the mood for like a thirst quencher, I don't have to think too much about, but still one of my favorite, example, like classic example, my favorite style. I think Saison DuPont would probably do the trick for that. So that's number 3. Now question 4, how can you drink so much / how do you stay healthy? So like some of you guys have admitted you're not that healthy. I like to say I'm healthy, but I've gained a lot of weight like over the past year or two, especially leading in the months leading up to my daughter being born, and then ever since then. And now with my job and my commute still being long, even after moving to New Jersey, I haven't been really, taking the chance to build up the motivation to really, rein in my diet. Not saying that I eat a ton of junk food, but I treat myself too often with like different, baked goods or ice cream or just little treats on the weekends especially. I've been able to really stop that. And then, in terms of my drinking habits, I don't think I drink a ton of beer, but definitely when you're already treating yourself too much with food, not really sticking to a diet, and then you have the beer on top of that and any other alcoholic beverages, like I like drinking bourbon on the weekends, and sometimes wine, especially, with the Sabbath meals on Friday night and Saturday lunch, everything adds up. And so if I'm not, burning the calories that I take in, or at least creating some sort of balance, I'm going to gain weight. So hopefully, sooner rather than later, I'll get that, under control. But in the scheme of things, like, some weekends I drink very little, and some weekends I drink a little extra. Some weeks during the week I drink, a beer or two every other night. I don't really like drinking every night. But really, if I do drink every other night, it's really only maybe one beer as a nightcap. So I don't really drink a lot. It's really the eating that's caused me to, and the lack of exercise that's caused me to gain weight. So that, brings to the next question. Are you an alcoholic? And I could definitely say no, because like I said, I don't like to drink every day of the week. I don't think I need the beer to decompress after work. I can come home, relax with my wife, have dinner, watch TV, and be fine, and de-stress that way instead of having to drink a beer. And some nights I even, like I'm on my way driving home from work, I think I really need a beer. And then with all the hubbub of catching up with my wife at the end of the day and having dinner after we put our daughter to sleep, it just doesn't happen. So I definitely don't think I'm an alcoholic, but I feel that, especially with craft beer geekery and wanting to try that next amazing beer, you can definitely see where some craft beer drinkers can end up being alcoholics, because they just end up feeling like they need to try that next hyped beer or that next IPA, or they have beer on hand and they need to try it because they need to be able to talk about it on all the forums like Beer Advocate and Rate Beer. But for me, definitely not an alcoholic. Question 6, what's your favorite beer ingredient? Or what's your favorite ingredient, as the question states? For me, it's definitely yeast. I like that some of you guys, beyond just stating which ingredient it is, you actually give a really detailed, passionate answer. Like Mike Dean, who went and grabbed some malt and ate it and started chewing on it and just talked about it, why he likes doing that. And I do love walking into the homebrew shop and smelling all the different aromas. But for me, yeast is great. I've been thinking about it lately. I love brewing IPAs, love drinking IPAs, I love drinking malty beers. But at the end of the day, my favorite beers to have on tap are Belgian beers. Like my Belgian house beer I brewed, I drink my bottles of my quad, like having a Saison on tap, just the yeast character. It's so versatile. Let's say for a Saison, you can hop up a Saison but still get yeast character. Just what yeast can do for a beer is just awesome. And again, being a lover of trying different yeast strains, especially from the Belgian realm, the Belgian genre of beer styles. Just gets me excited more than nowadays, at least more than hops or even malts. Even though I love brewing the styles that go along with those ingredients, like IPAs, barley wines, stouts, all that. And then a question which a lot of people have been putting first is, what was your first beer? So in high school, I had my older brother. He was like closer to 4 years older than me. And in high school, him and my dad would bring home like Miller Lite, Bud Light, all Coors Light, Miller Genuine Draft, all those, and me and my older brother would on the weekends would drink these light beers. I can't say I really ever loved them, but I did enjoy drinking them with him. So I guess it was kind of a social thing. But I do remember one time my dad, who is more of a fan nowadays at least, of like English bitters. He went to the liquor store one time to pick up some wine, and he asked for a beer recommendation, and they gave him a 6-pack of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And I don't know if it was an old 6-pack they were just trying to get rid of or whatever, but I remember like tasting like the most bitter thing I've ever tasted in my life. We all were like puckering from it because we were just only used to light macro lagers. And nowadays, I could just slam a 6-pack, a 6-pack of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale with no issue. So, it was just funny. That's one of my main beer memories from high school. And nowadays, through my geeking out of beer, I converted both of my brothers into beer geeks. My older brother more than my younger brother, because I'm one of 3 boys. And my dad really drinks wine now. Because that's what my mom also likes. But it's just funny from I have stories from back then. Next, actually I skipped question 7. Which actually I'll key into the question that I want to add is, do you brew? So yes, I brew. I have the brewed palate after all, and although I've done some earlier on, when I was living in New York City, I had more time because I didn't have my daughter yet. My daughter wasn't born yet. When I was going to beer events, I was doing a lot of brewer interviews. I do brew quite a bit, not as much nowadays, but I love brewing. What gets me excited is like other people said, like recipe formulation. I'm getting more into the sciencey part of it, like water chemistry now, but recipe formulation is what I love, and trying new recipes and seeing my recipes work, all while exploring what makes them what they are, like choosing the yeast strain or tweaking my old recipes to get to know the malts better. That's where a lot of my passion comes from, is being able to create a beer that is mine and seeing it through to the finished product and being able to tweak it later. So that's what I love about brewing. But the main question that I'm going to add, which a lot of people have been asking me for quite a long time, is, why don't you start your own brewery? Your beers are so good. Why don't you start your own brewery? And the one thing they forget, which I tell them, which I usually answer, is that starting a brewery it's a business before it's a brewery. Before you even start brewing, you have to find investors to help or get a bank loan. Then you have to find a location. Then you have to get the construction project approved to put the floor trees in and buy all the big brewing equipment and yada yada yada. They don't realize that part. They're just seeing the finished product before they see, oh yeah, it's a business first, and then there's a lot that goes into creating that business before you can even brew your first batch. But I guess if you guys, like I said before, if you guys have you guys gotten this question? What were your answers? I guess you could put those in the comments. But that's the main question that I've been asked a lot lately. And finally, I'm guess for me it would be question 10, even though I've been kind of blurring the lines between the numbers. I'm sorry for my rambling on in this video. But who do you look up to in the beer world? So I like the answers that some people have given, where at first they said, okay, yeah, I look up to some of the pioneers of the homebrewing and craft beer world, but at the end of the day, it's really the local homebrewers and craft brewers that I look up to. So yeah, of course I look up to John Palmer, who I've had the opportunity to meet in person and interview. I look up to Charlie Papazian, who I've also been able to meet in person and interview, and Randy Mosher and all those people. Not that I've met Randy Mosher or Gordon Strong or any of those other people, but I do look up to them. But at the end of the day, especially now that in New York City, at least a lot of my friends in the craft beer scene, a bunch of them have actually gone to open their own smaller New York City breweries. I look up to homebrewers that just like they give their all to their beers and to their community. You know, so especially like not only do like the brew tubers like SJ Poor and Kevin and Tony, who not only post videos of themselves brewing, but they post educational videos too, and their passion is clear as day in any of their videos. And a lot of people said Paul Wixty too. You know, his passion was at the tip of his tongue, in his eyes. You could see it beaming out of him. I know he loved posting videos that were just about, you know, challenges or stuff he was doing in the New Zealand community or whatever. He posted in every one of his videos when he was brewing. He made sure to teach us something. And I just feel that, you know, people who, you know, who go out of their way to brew good beer and show their passion in brewing beer, but also make it a point to teach their community, be part of the community, and go out of their way even to be part of the community, to be part of their local and, you know, our global brewing community. Those are the people I really look up to, because, you know, I want to brew, because they inspire me to brew better beer, and then, well, not only brew better beer, but also to share more of my knowledge and my experiences with as many people as possible. So those are my answers to the questions. I guess I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna call anyone out. But if anyone hasn't done the FABQ yet, they should go ahead and post the video when they have time to film. I'm actually filming this at my parents' house, hence the non-typical background in my apartment in front of my Keyser. And yeah, let's keep spreading this word. Thank you again, Tasting Nitch, for starting this. And I don't have a beer right now, but I'll wish not only a cheers to the beer tubing and brew tubing community, but a big thank you to all you guys for all that you do for the community, for all that you do for the home brewing and craft beer world at large. And let's keep doing what we do and keep making our mark on the still growing home brewing and craft beer scenes around the world. Cheers.